Yes, now and welcome back to another video. And it's the big one. The A-League season kicks off this week and it's ladder predictions time. Now, I feel like the A-League is going to be extremely tight this year. I feel like genuinely any team could make finals, bar a couple. But I just genuinely feel like anyone that I've got in probably the 10th to 3rd could make or not make finals. I feel like it is just an incredibly tight league this year. You're not here for me to talk about that. You're here for the ladder predictions. And what better way to get it underway than with last place? And unfortunately, last place this year is going to be Western United. Someone's got to have it. I am just not convinced by Western United. They kind of remind me somewhat of last year's Newcastle team. They've lost a fair bit of talent, right? They've lost Josh Risdon. They've lost some very key players. I feel like they've gone with a lot of youth. Like, they've brought up a lot of young players, Western United. I feel like it's going to be Newcastle Jets of last season. I feel like it's going to be fun to watch, but all in all, they're not going to get the results 9 times out of 10. And that is why I've put Western United down 13th. I think they will get the wooden spoon. 12th place, I'm going to go with Adelaide United. Now, I've been one to kind of not rate Adelaide United over the last couple of seasons. But this season especially, I'm not convinced. I don't think their defense is well and truly sorted out. I feel like there's going to be a lot of chop and change in that defense, and that makes it hard for a team to stay consistent. For me, they don't really have that X factor flair up front. Obviously, they've got youngsters coming through, but you know, in the last few seasons, they've had Craig Goodwin, Nesseria Nkunda, even Hiroshi Ibusuki has left the club. It just puts a lot of workload on, you know, your players like Luka Jovanovic, Stefan Mork. He's going to have a huge season. Zach Cloth, although he did have a great season last season, is he able to replicate that and pull Adelaide United to a good finish this year? I'm just not 100% certain with that. I don't know. They had a good cup run, but once again, the Australia Cup, it's not a gauge on where you're going to end in the upcoming A-League season. We've seen that as long as the Australia Cup's been around, right? But Adelaide United, for me, they're just not very convincing for me to put. I can't justify putting them much higher, to be honest. And then in 11th place, not much further than what they finished last season, I've gone with the Newcastle Jets. Look, the Jets, there's a lot of positives happening around Newcastle at the moment. They've finally got the new owners. Rob Stanton, he's building a good footballing culture, in my opinion. I feel like the players he's bringing in, he has an identity that he wants to play with. But once again, it's the youth of the team. I do like some of the players they brought in. Eli Adams, Welly Sol, I think is going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on as well. But they cut a lot of the so-called dead weight from the team as well last year. But they lost some key players in Apostolos Stamatolopoulos. He's out of the club. That's a lot of goals that you lose just straight away from. They did get a fee for him, which, you know, is always a benefit, but that's a lot of goals right there from AP leaving the club. They're going to be a fun team to watch. They're going to score goals. It's just that, once again, defensive stability. You know, can Mark Natter, can Philip Kankar, can Sushna? They've lost Moragas as well. Like that, I don't know, the defensive stability, once again, that seems to be my common theme with who I think is going to be towards the bottom half of the table. I think the defensive stability is just going to be a bit off, in my opinion, and it's going to be a lot for their attacking players to try and hold, you know, to drag that team forward, because I just don't think they're going to be able to stop the goals coming in. 10th position, gone for last year's wooden spooners. So we've gone Perth in 10th position. They're going to be a fun club to watch. Like, they've got rid of a lot of the dead weight from last season, in my opinion, and they've brought in a lot of youthful, skillful players from other A-League teams' academies, from, you know, just around the leagues and around the world in general. But it's their defensive structure that worries me again. shipping 4 goals to Melbourne City. They lost to Moreton Bay in the Cup as well. They conceded 7 goals in just 2 games of the Australia Cup. It's concerning for me as someone, I like watching Perth play. If they play similar to how they did last year, and I know David Zurulich is going to have that team absolutely structured to the bone in how they prepare coming into this season, but it's just the defense again that just worries me. They brought in Josh Risdon. Whether he can keep up his form over from the last few years at Western United, that's yet to be seen. Once again, I can't justify putting them any higher because there's a lot of teams this year that I think are around the level playing field, but I just don't think Perth is just... I think they're just in the tier below those teams. So once again, just can't justify putting them any higher. 9th. This may come as a bit of a surprise, but I've got the new boys Auckland. I've got them coming in 9th for this season. I think they built a good squad. I do like what they're building over there in Auckland. I think Steve Corica's, starting to build his squad. Once again, actually, I think it's the opposite from the teams below them. I think their attack is the thing that worries me the most. I just don't think there's much of an attacking flair with the Auckland squad. Jake Brimmer, I think, is going to be an absolutely key player for them in this upcoming season. Dan Hall in defence, I think he'll be able to structure that defence and be the commander of those back 5. Alex Paulson in goal as well. That's a massive coup for Auckland. Got the A-League's best goalkeeper from last year. My opinions on that, I'll leave you to look up the Learning A-Leagues podcast because I put out all my feelings on that last week. But Auckland in the attacking sense, they don't have that big name, right? They don't have that big striker or attacking presence that most other teams in the league do have. I think Auckland will do well. It wouldn't shock me if they make finals at all. I think this is where I wouldn't be surprised if any of the teams above do actually make finals or have a good season. Auckland, just for me, their attacking presence won't be enough to get them into the top 6. Although their defense very well could keep them in the top 6. It's chop and change for me. Team above them, I think, is a bit of a wild card. Everyone's put them further down in their predictions, what I've seen so far, but I've gone Brisbane Roar. Maybe I'm a little bit biased because I'm around the Roar all the time, right? But I just think the people are discounting the Roar. They've got some very good players in their team. They've still got Macklin Freak, one of the better goalkeepers from last year in my opinion. Young Lucas Harrington coming through, I think he will take a lot of people by surprise. He is a very good player, and from what I saw in the NPL last season, he very well could go toe-to-toe with a lot of these A-League players. Their centre-backs is going to be very interesting to see who starts, what formation they go with, whether they go with a 3-back, because they've got a fair few centre-backs at the moment. Their wing-backs may be a point of conjecture. Still got Jay O'Shea. Jay O'Shea, one of the best players in the A-League for the last, probably since he's been here the last 5 years. And then their attacking options, I think that's going to be a big surprise to people. But I think Raphael Struk, I think he will take the league by storm, and I think that'll bring a lot of eyes to the league. Hopefully everyone in Indonesia is paying attention to the A-League. I think he will have a good season, Raphael Struk. Acosta as well, he seems to be an absolute weapon on those dead balls as well. Scored a free kick against Adelaide the other day, and from what I've heard from a few of the players, he can score some as well in training. He's been very good. And Thomas Waddingham, he's coming into his 2nd season as well in the league. I think that front 3 is going to be pretty deadly. And you add in Ben Halloran as well, if he can get back to his best. They've built a very good squad here in Brisbane, but it's just whether all those pieces can click together. I think that is the big question. But I'm going to go with 8th. I'm going to give them, a little bit of respect. But I just don't think they'll make finals. I think they'll just miss out. And speaking of just missing out on finals, my 7th team, Melbourne City, I think they are just going to miss out this year. I'm not fully convinced by the side that Aurelio Vidmar's got for this season. You've still got Marco Tillier, you've still got Matt Leckie, you've still got Andrew Naboot, you've still got James Jacko. It's a very good squad there at Melbourne City, but I'm just not convinced they've brought in the right players to compensate for the players they've lost. Yes, they brought in Nathaniel Atkinson, but they lost Scott Galloway. Not that he played much last season, but Scott Galloway was a great fullback at Melbourne City. Jamie McLaren, it'll be hard for them to replace those times of goals with anyone in the world. Curtis Good, they've lost Nuno Reis as well. Togai Arslan, there's a lot of big outs there for Melbourne City. Whether they start to go for that more youth dependent route as well, I think they will to an extent. Max Caputo, obviously he's out injured for at least the first couple of months in the league. I think they're going to be similar to last year. I think they're going to be good in patches, and then they'll have a bad patch, but then they'll make a run towards the end. But I just think they'll just miss out on finals this year. So I'm going to put Melbourne City in 7th place. 6th place, first finals spot, I'm going to go with Wellington. A bit of a drop off from last year, but very high compared to what I predicted them last year. I did put them down in last year. Wellington, they've lost a lot of key players, right? You can't deny that. Alex Paulson's gone, Ben Old, Finn Sermon. There's just a lot of talent that has left that squad over in Wellington. But I think they've somewhat compensated with the players they've brought in. Ollie Yami, the new goalkeeper they've brought in, I think he will be up to Chiefy's standards, and his standards are pretty high considering it last year. And I do think, from what I'm hearing through interviews, through New Zealand media, that they're planning on playing that more fluid attacking football that we saw them play at home a lot last year, but not so much away. I think they're going to plan on playing that away this year as well. I think Costa Barbarouses, he's got a bit of help with Marco Rojas and Paulo Retre this season. Whether they can contribute in goals like Costa Barbarouses, that is a big mystery for me coming into this season. But I think the players that they've still got and the youth that's coming through at Wellington Phoenix, Salone Rodriguez looks like he's going to be one of the next big things that come out of Wellington. Maybe a Ben Old kind of player as well. You got Oscar Van Hatten. I think he's in for a big season as well. It's just going to be interesting to see how Wellington cope with such big losses. They've brought in some decent players, but can they cope with those big losses enough to challenge again, or will they be able to make finals at all? It's a very in-between season for Wellington Phoenix, in my opinion, but I believe in Chiefy ball, and I'm going to put them 6th. And 5th place, I'm going with the Australia Cup winners, Macarthur FC. I think they will make finals again. Whether they go far in the finals, who knows? They've got to make it first. But I'm very impressed with their off-season signings. Marin Yakulis, I think he's going to be in for a massive season this season. Marin Yakulis. They've lost, some key players due to other things. It's just going to be interesting to see how they choose to do this season. Will they bring up a lot of youth as well? I think they will. I think that's just the way the league is going as well. You got Arif Piol, you got Franz Deli in the midfield. He looks to be really good as well. And then you've still got Kurto, you've still got Yerman, you've still got Uzkok at the back. It's a very, very well balanced team that's been together for a season or two now, at least. Valher Germain as well. I haven't even mentioned him yet. I think he's going to be in for another massive season. Yakulis, Germain, and Jed Drew, I think, complement each other really well. Jed Drew's got that pace to go down the right-hand side to put in the ball. Valher Germain, he's that experienced player. He doesn't always need to be the quickest, but he always knows where to be. And Marin Yakulis, he just seems to be on fire at the moment. Don't forget, you still got Bernardo to come back from injury as well. Chris Economides, he's joined the squad as well. I think Macarthur, it's just a very interesting squad. I think they're going to complement each other really well, Macarthur, this year. So I'm going to put them in the top 6. I'm going to only put them 5th, but I wouldn't be surprised if they go higher. At the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if they go lower as well. It's just, I just think this is an incredibly tight season, but I'm going to put Macarthur 5th. You got to put them somewhere. In 4th place now, we go with my Western Sydney Wanderers. I didn't want to put them too high. I don't think we're going to have an amazing season, but I think 4th is that kind of nice balance. We've lost a lot of key players. Lockie Brook has gone, Marcelo has gone. I think that's a massive one. Lawrence Thomas, by the sounds of it, won't be fit for the first game of the season, so it'll be interesting to see who's going to be the starting goalkeeper in that first Sydney derby, the first game of the season for the Western Sydney Wanderers. Looks like they're trusting in the youth a lot with this team. You know, Oscar Priestman, I think he's in for a big season. You know, Dylan Cicluna, Zach Sapsford, Milanovic, he signed on for another year as well. They're going to be trusting in the youth a lot with this team. And you can see that with the signings they brought in as well. Although he's not as young as some of the other players, James Temelkovski, I think, is a great signing from Marconi as well. You got Ben Holiday from Moreton City, and then you've got the big one, right? Juan Mata. You know, how have I gone this long talking about the Wanderers without talking about Juan Mata? He is going to be, I think, massive for the Wanderers and the league. He's not going to be, you know, the player that gets all the headlines, maybe like some other signings that have happened over the off season, but I think he's just going to glue the team together very, very well. Brendan Burello, hopefully he can get back to his goal scoring form. He had a bit of an off season last year, but it's going to be interesting to see him and Antonsen. How much will either of those play? Will Stajic play with Zach Sapsford more? Who knows? It's going to be interesting to see over the course of the season what Alen Stajic does with this squad, considering it is his first season as well, and he's trusting in the youth a lot. You know, Alex Bonatig at the back as well. So I'm going to put the Wanderers fourth. I think it'd be my bias showing if I put them any higher, to be completely honest, but I think fourth is a nice medium to put them. Third place, I'm going with the team that won 3 trophies last year, the Mariners. I think there will be a little bit of a fall off. I think it's kind of stupid not to predict a little bit of the fall off with the Mariners, right? You've lost Josh Nisbet, Max Ballard, Vukovic has retired, they've lost Jing Reek, they've lost Barcelos. There's a lot of talent that has left that squad, but it's the Mariners. Like, they pull out these talents from everywhere, whether it's locally, around the globe. Like, it's just the Mariners. I'd feel rude putting them lower than third, but they don't fuel me that much with inspiration that I'm going to put them higher than third. I think their goalkeeper situation is going to be very interesting this year. They've also lost Dan Hall, so Brian Caltex, he's, you know, got some new centre-back partners. They brought in Lucas Moragas. They've still kept Mikel Docker. I think is a massive inclusion for them. I think he was one of their better players last year. Ryan Edmondson, Alfie McCalmont in the midfield. Maybe they can, you know, get a bit of a partnership going, since they've kind of had similar clubs to an extent. Both played at Leeds in the youth, and then both played for Carlisle United as well. So very interesting to see how those two gel into this starting season. They haven't had the best of results in the Asian Champions League Elite, but that never means much. Mariners started off with 4 losses at the start of the A-League last year, and they won the whole thing. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Mariners adapt. It's going to be very interesting to see how Mark Jackson, his second season in charge of the Mariners, goes, and especially with the big news recently of Richard Peel leaving as well. Who knows? It's going to be a very interesting season for the A-League and the Mariners, but I'm going to put them third, which means I have the 2 blue teams in first and second. Who will go first? Who will go second? I'm going to put Sydney FC second, and then Melbourne Victory, I think, will finish the season as premiers. Sydney FC, they've brought in a lot of talent. I think that's not to be laughed at. You know, Douglas Costa, I think, although there was skepticisms about when he did first sign, I think he will have a big season here at Sydney FC. Whether it is just for one season, maybe it's for a couple of seasons, who knows. But I think he's in for a big season. You know, you got Kilamala, I think, as well. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Don't come after me for that. I think he's going to be a very interesting target for Douglas Costa and Joe Lolly to put balls into the box for. They've lost, you know, some big players as well. Jake Gerwood-Reich, he's gone. I think that is a massive loss. And Luke Bratton as well. That is a massive loss, in my opinion. Luke Bratton was pretty much the key of that midfield, in my opinion, last year. Don't know how they're going to go without him in the midfield, but I think that's going to be very interesting. I don't know, I can't put my finger on it, but I like Sydney's chances this year. I liked them last year as well. I predicted them to be premiers last year. I'm less certain that they'll be premiers this year. I'm honestly not certain who will be premiers this year. It took me about 15-20 minutes to just pick a first place. But I think Sydney will have a good year, and that's why I put them in second place. And Melbourne Victory, I just think they've built a really good squad. Patrick Kisnorbo as well. He's a winner in the A-League. He doesn't know how not to win. He's got Daniel Arzani as well. Whether that sticks around, who knows? Whether Bruno Fornaroli sticks around, who knows? There seems to be a bit of conjecture inside the camp from the outside, as far as we know. What will happen with those players, who knows? But Nikos Virgos, he looks very good coming in. Nishan Velupale, he is in some incredible form, you know, scoring and making his debut for the Socceroos as well. I just think Melbourne Victory have a good team. You know, Hamill as well in the back line to complement Miranda. They lost Damien De Silva, but I think that's just as good as a replacement as you can get. It's going to be very interesting. They've got Mitchell Angarak coming in January as well. It's a good squad. I just like Melbourne Victory this year. Ryan Teague, Jordi Valadon in the midfield. For Patrick Kisnorbo to put that much trust in those two as well for this season, I think absolutely massive for them. Zinedine Machach, will he have a good season like he did last year, or will he get to that next level and become an even better A-League player? Who knows? I just like Victory's chances. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. I can't put my finger on any of these teams really to win the premiership. But Melbourne Victory for me have the best chance, so that's why I put them first. And there we have it. There is my full ladder prediction for the upcoming A-League season 20 of the A-League. Let me know what you guys think of my ladder down in the comments below. We've got a lot of A-League content coming out over the next couple of weeks. We're going to do a video every day leading up to the first game of A-League season as well. We've got predictions, we've got away kits, we've still got to look at the transfer window as well, because players still will keep coming in. But we've got a lot of A-League content coming up over the next 9 or so months until the A-League is over again. But we don't need to think about that just yet, because it's just about to start. And if you're excited for the A-League, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, because we're going to have a lot of stuff coming up over the next few months. But until then, thank you all for watching. I'll see you later.